We chase it relentlessly.
Mm.
Our whole lives, education, careers, it often feels like it's all structured around pursuing this one thing,
Mm.
success.
Right. It's all built around, well, getting there, achieving that thing.
That moment, maybe standing on a podium holding a diploma, or the day a huge merger finally closes.
Or maybe just getting that email confirming a big promotion you worked ages for.
Exactly. And you achieve it. And for, what, a moment? A brief, glorious moment, you feel completely unstoppable.
Absolutely. But that feeling, that intense, pure hit of euphoria, it feels like it's built on borrowed time, doesn't it?
It really does, before the celebration even properly winds down.
Yeah, the high just fades, and you're left kind of staring into this void almost.
And instinctively looking for the next thing, often something harder.
Precisely. Just to try and recapture that feeling you just had, it's this huge paradox, isn't it? Why does the very thing we're told will bring lasting happiness? Why does it act more like, I don't know, an addictive drug?
Constantly demanding a higher dose just to feel okay. And that's really the core question driving this deep dive today. We want to analyze the specific psychological, even biological forces that seem to ensure success is, well, inherently fleeting.
Yeah, this isn't really about how to succeed. I know we've touched on things like the self-fulfilling prophecy before, how beliefs shape outcomes.
Right. Today is about what happens after you succeed. The consequences, sometimes even devastating ones, of the achievement itself.
We're looking at why that I did it feeling creates this kind of addictive loop, and crucially, where we keep misplacing genuine, sustainable fulfillment in this chase.
It feels like we're constantly chasing a ghost.
It can, yeah. Our sources for this dive take us deep into behavioral science, humanistic psychology, because if we want to break free from this success treadmill,
We have to understand the gears first, all right? What actually hooks us?
this chase for external validation, it's often way more complex than just wanting money or a fancy title. It goes deeper, right into the primal systems of the brain.
Okay, so let's unpack those primal systems first then. Because the high of achievement, it feels almost magical, but you're saying it's basically just brain chemistry designed to keep us moving.
In large part, yes. From a purely chemical standpoint, that moment of achievement triggers this huge release of dopamine in the brain.
Ah, dopamine. The pleasure chemical.
Well, see, that's the common misunderstanding. It's often called that, but it's not strictly accurate. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure. It's really the motivation, anticipation, and learning chemical.
Okay, that distinction feels important. Because if it were just pleasure, maybe the feeling would stick around longer.
Precisely. Because it's heavily tied to anticipation and learning, it immediately starts nudging us toward the next potential reward.
How does that work in the brain specifically?
So dopamine surges in a key area called the nucleus accumbens, part of the brain's reward pathway. This happens when we anticipate getting a reward, or sometimes when a reward comes unexpectedly or is bigger than expected.
So the brain learns. It connects the dots.
Exactly. It learns that certain actions, certain behaviors lead to this chemical surge. When you hit that big goal, that dopamine release is basically the brain shouting yes. That whole sequence, the effort, the struggle, the focus, do that again, that's what works.
Wow. That sounds a lot like classical conditioning almost.
Oh.
Takes me straight back to the foundational work in behaviorism.
It absolutely does. You can see a perfect parallel in B.F. Skinner's work on reinforcement theory.
Skinner, right. The experiments with rats and levers.
Exactly. Skinner showed very clearly that behaviors followed by a reward are reinforced. They get repeated. And the key word here is reinforcement.
So in the lab, a mouse presses a lever, gets a food pellet. In the real world.
An executive works insane hours, pushes through incredible stress, and finally lands that massive deal.
And gets the internal chemical reward.
Right. The brain locks in this success loop. I applied intense effort, I struggled, followed by I succeeded against the odds, followed by I got this huge, intoxicating rush of dopamine.
So the dopamine acts as the internal reinforcement signal.
Precisely. It cements the pattern of struggle itself as the reliable path to that rewarding feeling. And because this reward system is powerful, quick, and feels so good, it makes chasing success inherently dependent, repeatable.
We become almost addicted, not necessarily to the achievement itself, but to the anticipation of the next hit.
That's a huge part of it. It explains that compulsion many people feel to immediately set a new goal, often a higher, harder one, right after achieving something.
Because you want that same intensity of chemical reward, you probably need a bigger challenge, a bigger potential payoff.
And this is where we crash headfirst into the really tough part. The high always crashes, and often really fast.
Okay.
This brings us to this really important concept known as the hedonic treadmill, or sometimes called hedonic adaptation.
The treadmill. I mean, that's such a perfect metaphor, isn't it? Running faster and faster, but basically staying in the same place when it comes to actual long-term happiness.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. The hedonic treadmill principle basically states that even after a massive positive event, like a huge pay raise, buying your dream house, even something like recovering fully from a serious illness, our subjective sense of happiness, our well-being, it inevitably drifts back towards its starting point, its baseline.
Our internal happiness thermostat just resets itself.
Pretty much. The system seems designed more for survival and maintaining equilibrium, not for creating permanent bliss. The brain adapts to the new situation.
So that incredible achievement, no matter how monumental it felt at the time, very quickly just becomes
Good.
the expected, the new normal.
Exactly right. And once it becomes normal, guess what? It stops generating that feel-good satisfaction. This is where it gets psychologically dangerous.
Oh, so
Well, that new fancy title, that beautiful house, that bigger salary, it subtly transforms. It goes from being a source of genuine joy to becoming a new source of pressure.
pressure to maintain it.
Yeah, you have to maintain the performance that got you the title, keep up the lifestyle associated with the income, preserve the status, and critically, to recapture that initial thrilling dopamine jolt you first felt.
You have to aim even higher.
You're forced onto this relentless marathon where the goalposts are constantly moving further away. It demands constantly bigger, grander successes just to feel that same initial rush.
Wow, that sounds utterly exhausting. And I remember seeing the research you shared. There's actual data about where this treadmill effect really becomes noticeable, especially with money, right?
Yes, the research is pretty consistent on this. Psychologists often talk about a financial breaking point.
A breaking point. What does that mean?
It's the threshold where your basic needs are reliably met. You know, you're not facing daily stress about having enough food, secure housing, access to healthcare once people cross that threshold.
So once you feel fundamentally safe and secure,
Right. Once those foundational needs are covered, acquiring significantly more wealth or hitting even bigger success metrics, well, it just doesn't lead to a meaningful, permanent increase in your long-term happiness or well-being. The returns diminish rapidly.
okay, so going from being financially unstable to stable, that gives a massive boost to happiness, understandably.
Huge, because it removes major sources of stress and anxiety.
But going from, say, comfortably stable to extremely wealthy, the happiness needle doesn't move nearly as much.
Exactly. The focus tends to shift then. It moves away from stress reduction and more towards maybe consumption, social comparison, status competition, things that don't reliably boost long-term well-being.
So the big happiness gain comes from achieving security, reducing that negative stress, not necessarily from accumulating luxury beyond that point.
That's what the bulk of the research suggests. Once you're financially secure, your personal hedonic treadmill kind of recalibrates. That stable income becomes your new baseline. Now, any further boost in happiness requires a much greater expenditure, more effort, more time, more sacrifice.
For a smaller and probably more temporary gain.
Precisely. And often, the very first things sacrificed in that pursuit of the next level are the things that actually do provide lasting satisfaction.
Which leads us straight into this hidden but really significant cost of this relentless chase, isolation.
This might be the most tragic trade-off, honestly. The kind of single-minded focus, that tunnel vision required to run that fast on the success treadmill, it demands the sort of psychological peripheral vision loss.
Meaning?
You become so narrowly focused on hitting that next goal, that next achievement, that anything not directly contributing to it starts to seem secondary, or even like a distraction.
And that often includes things like deep relationships, community involvement,
Yeah.
shared family time.
Sadly, yes, the sheer energy, the mental bandwidth dedicated to, say, securing that major contract or navigating a complex promotion, that energy has to come from somewhere. It's often taken directly from the pool that would normally be reserved for nurturing your family, maintaining close friendships, being present.
It feels like a zero-sum game of attention and energy.
It often is, in practice. And the result can be this incredibly hollow anticlimax. When the project is done, the deal is closed, the applause finally fades, and that brief, fleeting dopamine hit inevitably wears off.
You're left standing alone on the summit.
Exactly. And if you've neglected building and maintaining those genuine human connections, the people you need to actually share the meaning of that victory with the achievement itself quickly feels empty. It can transform into this profound sense of loneliness.
Success by itself is just a cold, quiet room. There's no one there to celebrate with you or just be with you afterwards.
Beautifully put. That temporary validation you get from the outside world, from the achievement, it can never replace the deep, enduring validation that comes from belonging, from connection.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly, I think, for a shift in perspective. We need to move beyond just the brain chemistry, the dopamine hits, and look at the bigger picture, the sort of structural error we seem to make in how we even seek fulfillment.
Yeah, if we connect this to a broader framework, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs offers a really critical lens for understanding where we consistently go wrong.
Maslow's pyramid. Most people have seen it, right?
Yeah.
Basic needs at the bottom, up to self-actualization at the top.
Right. It maps out human motivations, starting from fundamental survival needs up to our highest potential. But in our modern culture, especially achievement-focused cultures, we keep making what our sources call the Maslow mistake.
A mistake. How so?
We're essentially confusing the steps. We're prioritizing building the roof, maybe even a fancy gold-plated roof, while completely neglecting the foundation beneath it.
Okay, walk us through that structural error. Where does our typical ambition for success, title, status, accomplishments fit into Maslow's pyramid?
All those things, success, achievement, status, prestige, respect from others, titles, they reside firmly in the esteem level. That's a fourth level up from the bottom.
Okay, fourth level. What's directly beneath it? What's the foundation for esteem?
Immediately beneath esteem, at the third and structurally more fundamental level, is the need for belonging and love. This is about friendships, family connections, intimacy, having a sense of community, feeling accepted.
So the need to be loved and accepted is actually more fundamental, more necessary for our psychological stability than the need to be respected and accomplished.
According to Maslow's model, absolutely. Think about it structurally. Imagine trying to build a magnificent skyscraper representing esteem on a foundation of quicksand, representing unmet needs for belonging and love. It just won't hold.
But our culture often seems to push the opposite, doesn't it? The achievement trap.
Exactly. The achievement trap encourages us, sometimes implicitly, sometimes explicitly, to bypass or downplay those crucial belonging and love needs. We treat them as maybe secondary concerns, things that will just sort of happen automatically later.
Or worse, sometimes as things that get in the way of ambition.
Right. And we focus all our energy, all our vigorous effort on climbing up to that highly visible, high-status esteem level. There's often this underlying belief. If I just achieve enough, get enough status, then the love, the belonging, the acceptance, it will all follow.
But the pyramid's logic says the energy needs to flow the other way. Build the stable base of connection first, and then you can healthily pursue esteem needs.
That's the core principle. You need that solid foundation to support anything built above it. And the conclusion from the sources we looked at is really striking here.
What did they emphasize?
That no matter how high you climb on the esteem ladder, no matter how much material success you pile up, if that foundational level of belonging and love remains empty, underdeveloped, the only real feeling waiting for you at the peak of achievement is this deep, almost existential emptiness.
So you might drive the luxury car, live in the huge house.
But those material markers of esteem cannot, chemically or psychologically, fill that fundamental human need for connection, for being truly seen and valued for who you are, not just what you've achieved. It's like trying to fix a deep emotional need with the wrong tool.
This really challenges that whole hustle culture narrative, which sometimes frames relationships almost as a liability, a drag on achieving peak performance.
It directly confronts it. But let's look even higher up the pyramid for a second. The very top. Self-actualization. For many people, this is seen as the ultimate goal, right? Reaching your full potential.
The pinnacle.
Yeah.
The moment you finally made it in the deepest sense.
But here again, there's a common illusion, a powerful misunderstanding. We instinctively tend to think of self-actualization as a result, like it's a final destination, a big award you get at the end, maybe a definitive legacy project you complete, or that moment you finally retire and can just enjoy your success. The end product.
Like getting the giant life achievement trophy.
Kind of. But the academic reality, how Maslow actually defined it, is quite different. He saw self-actualization primarily as a process.
A process, not an endpoint.
Exactly. It's not some static state you finally reach and then you're done. It's about a continuous, active engagement with realizing your potential. It's about ongoing growth, consistently using your unique abilities, finding deep meaning in the daily effort itself. It's fundamentally about the journey, not the arrival lounge.
Okay, that shift from destination to journey feels really key
Yeah.
because it moves the source of true satisfaction away from that fleeting external dopamine hit moment of, I achieved it.
Right. The deeper, more sustainable satisfaction comes from the quality of the engagement, the meaning derived from the effort itself, the process.
The road, not just the destination sign.
Precisely. And this is where the field of positive psychology offers a really valuable perspective. It provides a robust alternative to just equating success or happiness with those transient moments of pleasure, or has, as it's sometimes termed.
What does positive psychology substitute pleasure with?
A key concept here is the flow state, or akushali, a term coined by the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Flow.
Yeah.
Yes, I find this concept incredibly powerful because I think almost everyone has experienced it at some point, even if they didn't have a specific name for it.
Absolutely. Flow is defined as that mental state where you become totally immersed in an activity. It could be anything: composing music, writing complex code, performing intricate surgery, playing a challenging sport, even gardening sometimes.
You're just completely absorbed.
Totally, to the exclusion of almost everything else. In that state, you typically lose all sense of time passing. You lose self-consciousness. You're not worrying about outcomes. Your skills feel perfectly matched to the challenge at hand.
The external world just kind of melts away, and the motivation isn't about some external prize waiting at the end.
No, the motivation is intrinsic. It comes directly from the quality of the engagement itself. The activity becomes its own reward.
Okay, and this, you're saying, is the potential solution to that success addiction cycle we talked about.
It's a huge part of the solution. Cultivating flow allows you to transition. You move away from an addiction to the result of success, that external validation, the dopamine hit that quickly fades, and towards a deep, internal, and much more sustainable satisfaction with the process itself.
So the brain is still getting rewarded, but differently.
Yes, but it's rewarded for the sustained focus, the deep engagement, the skillful execution during the activity, not just for hitting the completion signal at the very end. This makes the effort itself self-reinforcing. It doesn't rely so heavily on those external metrics or finish lines.
Which implies then that if a job, or any activity really, doesn't allow for opportunities to experience flow,
Yeah.
it's unlikely to ever provide that deep sense of fulfillment, right? No matter how high the salary or prestigious the title.
That's a strong conclusion from the sources, yes. If the activity only delivers its reward upon completion, and the process of getting there is mostly a joyless slog, or requires constant mental forcing, you're basically just reinforcing that old dopamine dependency loop, waiting for the hit.
But if the process itself is inherently rewarding, if it frequently induces flow,
Then you're feeding something deeper. You're nourishing, you might say, the soul, not just satisfying a temporary chemical demand. You're building sustainable well-being.
okay. So let's bring this all together then. What does this mean practically for, the high-achieving person listening right now who is currently chasing their next big goal? How do we actually break this dependency loop without just giving up on ambition entirely? Because we still need to achieve things, live in the world.
Absolutely. Breaking the dependency doesn't mean becoming passive or abandoning goals. It means fundamentally changing the framework through which we pursue them. The key shift is moving from being purely goal-oriented to becoming much more consciously system-oriented.
Goal-oriented versus system-oriented. We're taught from childhood, aren't we? Set goals, smart goals, big, hairy, audacious goals. Why is relying only on the goal the potential problem here?
Because goals, by their nature, are often temporary destinations. They represent a future point in time. Systems, on the other hand, are about the present. They are the stable routines, the daily practices, the processes you engage in every single day.
Okay, give me an example.
All right. Let's say your singular goal is to win a major industry award this year. If you're purely goal-oriented, you really only receive that big validation hit and the associated dopamine surge if and when you actually win. It's a one-off event.
And if you don't win?
Then the entire effort, psychologically speaking, can register as a failure. A huge investment with zero payoff, reinforcing feelings of inadequacy, perhaps.
Okay, so how does a system-oriented approach differ?
If instead your system is, say, I commit to spending 90 minutes every morning deeply researching my field and writing 500 high-quality words, regardless of any specific outcome.
Ah, okay. The validation comes from sticking to the system itself, daily.
Exactly. When you focus on the stability and the consistency of your daily systems, you essentially reward yourself every single day just for showing up and doing the work with integrity. The satisfaction, the sense of accomplishment is derived from the process, from the execution of the system, not solely from that potentially fleeting external outcome like winning the award.
So the external success, like eventually winning the award perhaps, becomes more like a natural byproduct, a
Yeah.
secondary result of consistently maintaining an excellent system.
Precisely. It reframes success as an outcome of your daily actions rather than the primary source of your self-worth or happiness. And this fundamentally undermines the power of the hedonic treadmill.
Oh, sorry.
Because you're adapting to a consistently rewarding process, something you engage in daily, rather than adapting to a single transient event. Your baseline sense of satisfaction is linked to your daily engagement, not just the big wins.
This definitely requires changing how we measure success, doesn't it? Moving away from those standard external metrics. Society loves the job title, the salary number, the size of the house.
Completely. We need to start using internal, process-driven metrics more consciously.
Like what? What should we be measuring instead?
Well, the sources we reviewed stressed this actionable change. Instead of just prioritizing financial or status metrics, start measuring things related to genuine engagement and meaning. For instance, ask yourself regularly, how many times this past week did I genuinely experience that state of profound flow, where I was completely absorbed in what I was doing?
Okay, measuring flow frequency. Why is that powerful?
Because it measures your intrinsic motivation. It helps ensure you're spending your precious time and energy engaged in activities that are structurally rewarding in themselves, not just activities that offer a paycheck or external validation at the end.
And the beauty of measuring flow, I suppose, is that it's almost impossible to fake. You either lose track of time in satisfying effort or you don't.
That's right. It's an honest internal signal. And here's another critical measurement suggested by the sources. How many genuinely good deeds did I perform this week without needing any kind of self-proof, external applause, or validation for doing them?
Measuring intrinsic value contribution. Checking your motives.
Exactly. Are your actions driven by your deep-seated personal values, a genuine desire to contribute or connect? Or are they subtly or not so subtly feeding that esteem level, that constant need for public approval or recognition? Shifting focus to these internal metrics helps starve that external validation addiction cycle.
And adopting this system-oriented mindset must also change how we deal with setbacks, right? With the inevitable mistakes and errors that happen when you're ambitious.
Oh, massively. If you're purely goal-oriented, hitting a roadblock or making a significant mistake can feel like total failure. It can be paralyzing, make you want to just give up on the goal entirely.
It invalidates the whole effort up to that point, perhaps.
It can feel that way.
Yeah.
But if you're focused on optimizing your system, then mistakes and errors become something entirely different. They're just data points.
Information to improve the system itself.
Exactly. This shift in perspective requires us to normalize error. Maybe even learn to, well, not celebrate failure exactly, but see it as a crucial learning opportunity, proof that you're pushing boundaries. This practice builds mental resilience. It builds the courage needed to simply reset the system, tweak it based on the feedback, and start anew tomorrow. If your system is fundamentally about daily growth and improvement, then a mistake is just evidence that your growth mechanism is working, providing necessary feedback.
This makes so much sense. But we also have to remember that foundation we talked about earlier, right, with Maslow. All these brilliant systems for achievement, they could still ultimately feel hollow if the base of the pyramid is crumbling.
Absolutely critical. The anchor for sustainable well-being must be set firmly in that level of belonging and love. We have to consciously, actively choose to invest our finite energy there consistently.
And that requires acknowledging something tough, perhaps. That the same kind of dedicated energy, that intense focus you might apply to, say, securing a major business deal, that same level of proactive energy needs to be allocated to your foundational relationships.
Yes. It's not passive. This is often the hardest part for driven, high-achieving individuals, isn't it? Because there's a tendency to view achievement as active, requiring constant work, strategy, effort, while relationships are sometimes viewed as more passive things that should just sort of exist healthily in the background without needing focused effort.
That feels like a fatal error in thinking based on everything we've discussed.
It is. Because high-quality, supportive, meaningful relationships are not passive background elements. They require what we might call active balance. They need proactive investment, focused attention. quality time.
Which means consciously putting down the phone during dinner, silencing the endless work notifications when you're with family.
Yes, dedicating focused mental energy to the people you care about, just as intensely as you might focus on a work problem. Because when that success treadmill inevitably tries to pull you back into its relentless chase.
Having that strong foundation provides the friction, the anchor.
Exactly. The warmth, the stability, the unconditional acceptance you find in a solid foundation, your family, your close friends, your community, that provides the necessary psychological ballast to resist the constant pull towards more external validation. Genuine, lasting fulfillment is almost always found in shared meaning, and shared meaning is built primarily on those deep connections.
So ultimately, it's about building a life that feels rich and meaningful every day through the quality of your systems and connections, not just waiting for some big external event down the road to finally validate your entire existence.
That is the true success system, living a fulfilling process.
Okay, so if we just take a step back and look at the whole journey we've covered today, the conclusion seems pretty clear, doesn't it?
I think so. The biggest success, the most meaningful kind, isn't found in that constant, restless need for more status, more money, more accolades. It's found in the ability to feel genuinely satisfied with who you are, what you contribute, and what you've built so far.
Anchored in the integrity of your daily process, your systems.
And crucially, in the strength and quality of your human connections.
We've sort of peeled back the curtain on the mechanisms that temporary dopamine hit, the relentless hedonic treadmill, the things that trick our brains into believing that the next prize, the next achievement will be the one that finally delivers permanent joy.
Well, we've seen that structurally, psychologically, that kind of externally derived joy is almost always temporary by design.
Right. Which leads to, I think, a really crucial distinction you highlighted from the sources.
Yes, we really need to internalize this. Success, particularly external success, should ideally be viewed as a result of happiness, or perhaps more accurately, a result of engaging in a meaningful, fulfilling process. It's a side effect. It should not be pursued as the primary source of happiness itself.
Change the order in that equation.
And you begin to break the addiction cycle. You shift the focus from chasing fleeting rewards to cultivating sustainable well-being through daily action and connection.
That distinction, success as a result versus success as the source, feels like the perfect challenge to leave with everyone listening. So we really encourage you to reflect on this question this week. If you were to hypothetically strip away all the external validation, tomorrow, take away the job titles, the salary figures, the awards, the social media likes, the applause, all those public metrics of your achievement, what would actually remain of your personal definition of success?
And maybe even more importantly, is that core, that inherent, process-driven, connection-based core, is that enough, truly enough, to bring you genuine flow, real meaning, and lasting satisfaction?
Dig deep into that one. The answer might just hold the key to getting off the treadmill.
Indeed. Don't miss the flow of your actual life while you're busy chasing the elusive finish line of perpetual success.
Wise words. That's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time with more insights into the fascinating complexities of the human mind.